Hello everyone. I have been thinking about Kubernetes pods recently. Kubernetes pods are the smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes, and they normally contain one or more containers. So the idea is that you wrap multiple containers with a pod. And I've been thinking, like, why did we actually came up with the idea of pods in the first place? And why don't we just like deal with containers directly? Like, why did the creators of Kubernetes thought about the idea of a pod? And apparently the idea of a pod is actually came early on with the idea of Kubernetes. It could be some learning that came from Borg, the original system that came out of Google. So in my mind, I think the idea of a pod is about making our lives easier, because some applications require having multiple containers working closely with each other. For example, let's take an idea of a simple web app where one container would be using the web server, where users could be uploading an image, and then another container could be an image resizer that would pick up that image and then resize it. So those containers need to work tightly with each other. So if you want those containers to talk to each other, the first thing is that having those containers in a pod, they would be talking to each other using the local host, which means they would be talking to each other as if they were on the same virtual machine or on the same machine, which makes our networking so much easier. So that's the first problem that a pod actually solved. The other thing is that, for example, if you wanted to have a shared storage between those two containers in a pod do share a storage, so that would make it so much easier for the web server container to just put the image the user uploaded on that storage, and then the image resizer container would have access to it. Again, that's another issue that pods have actually solved. The other thing is the life cycle of those containers. So like, imagine if you have those tightly coupled containers outside of pods. If you want to start, shut down, delete those containers, that would require a lot of scheduling, a lot of engineering to make sure that these containers start and stop, or even deleted at the same time. Having them in one pod, you could just easily delete that pod, start the pod, and it would start those containers. Again, when it comes to security, for example, if you have a network policy or like some sort of security that you want to have that policy applied to those containers, instead of having multiple policies, instead of chasing those containers, you apply one policy to this pod, and it would apply to all the containers within it. So more benefit came up later on with things like the Kubernetes being able to talk to whatever container runtime using a container runtime interface, which is a specification. So it doesn't matter what type of container runtime is running those containers. So what do you guys think of the idea of a Kubernetes pod? Is it a hit or a miss? And what other scenarios that you guys found pod actually makes your life easier? Thank you. See ya.